And here we go. So yeah, hello guys and welcome to my werewolf build for the Wrathstone DLC. I call it the heavy metal Cerberus. Other reasons you'll find out later. Anyway, build is for Stamsorc or Stamplar. It depends what you like more, what you like most. I personally find that the Stamplar synergizes best in human form, and the Stamsorc slightly better in werewolf form. It's really more of a personal preference, if you know what I mean. Which class you like most, which class you like playing more. So anyway, first I'll go over the race, mundus stone, stuff like that. The best race for this setup is definitely Khajiit, because the Khajiit last patch, there was some changes to the Khajiit racial passives. You can see here we get like 85 stamina and magical recovery, which is effectively like 140 with all the passives that we get. That's what at least I calculated in the build calculator. Then we get a ton of resources of all three. It's like 1k magicka, health and stamina. Very nicely balanced, very pracked, very handy. And then we get feline ambush, which means that we get 10% more critical damage and critical healing, which synergizes very good with mechanical acuity, which gives us 100% crit ratio for 5 seconds. That means in that 5 set to use the Khajiit passive to its fullest potential, we are going to use the mechanical acuity. Oh yeah, and also stealth detection radius of yourself is decreased by 3 meters, but that's pretty much irrelevant because I don't tend to cloak that much as a Stamsorc or my Stamplar. Anyway, the buff food that we use is a dubious Cormorant Throne. You can get it from the Justice Festival. It gives us max health, max stamina, and stamina recovery, which we use this buff food specifically to proc our Bone Pirate, which is pretty much the best set at the moment for stamp classes. There's no real alternative, which comes even close to it. So yeah, Bone Pirate, we use that. And as a Mundus Stone, you have two choices. If you like being a bit more bursty, you can go Shadow, so that in that mechanical acuity phase, your dots will just rip through people. I mean, I legit have had 3.2 to 3.5k dot ticks with the Shadow Mundus when mechanical goes off. Warrior is a bit lower burst damage, but more overall damage, like more constant damage. So that's my personal choice. But Shadow is also extremely powerful, especially with this setup. So yeah, that's really personal choice. Warrior is like the balancing between constant damage and burst damage. So yeah, anyway, I will come to the skills on which I use in human form on my Stamsorc and on my Stamplar. We will switch character then. And then we will go over the armor sets that I wear on these setups. So, first, Stamsorc skilling. The reason why Stamsorc synergizes so well with werewolf form is these passives. Unholy Knowledge. It reduces the cost of magic and stamina costs by ability by 5%, which means that our werewolf heals and the werewolf skills in itself are usually pretty costly. I mean, here you can see the pounds of 3.8k stamina, and that's with the Stamsorc passive. So without it'll be like 4k-ish, I think. So yeah, this actually is very good for our sustain. It's actually pretty amazing. It's like half a Breton passive, you can imagine. Blood magic doesn't block. Actually, this does block. I noticed it as well, that if you like getting focused as a werewolf, blocking as a Stamsorc actually makes it a lot easier sustaining your werewolf heals, even though our Claws of Life do a lot of that to counter this stuff. Exploitation, this we don't get. The next passive which synergizes very well with this setup is the Power Stone passive, which basically means that our ultimate abilities cost is reduced by 15%. That means the werewolf, which usually costs 300 ultimate, only costs 255 for a Stamsorc, which means that you can proc it a lot faster. These ones are not active. Okay, now comes an interesting tree. This tree is actually the most potential one for the werewolf build. Anyway, magical recovery 10%. Very, very nice, very handy. We need all the magical recovery we can get, which also synergizes very well, with the Khajiit racial passives of 85 magical recovery, mind you. And then the energized passive means more physical and shock damage, which means our bleeds, the werewolf bleeds, which are very strong, especially on the Berserker. They go through resistances, by the way. Gets buffed by this, because it's physical damage. And then the Amplitude passive, which buffs pretty much all damage against enemies by every 1% for every 10% of current health they have. That means that 100% health, you get 10% more damage. It amplifies our Vulcan Scoria, for example, that we're wearing, which also procs, by the way, of the Hurricane and the double dot poisons I'm using, and the Carve backbar. Because on the backbar we also use an axe, that means we proc bleeds, a dot, that's, let's see, that's dot 1, dot 2, we have 5 different dots, if you include the poison status effect, which, because Vulcan Scoria I think has like a 6 to 8%, I can't remember, proc chance, we will see later, which basically means that it almost pretty much procs on cooldown if you have them dotted up. Even if they're just like dodge rolling and you can't dot them up, this the Scoria alone will proc Vulcan Scoria very, very nicely. And in Werewolf form, we also have our 5 dots with the poison status effect, which procs Scoria. That means as soon as the poisons proc, you can start increasing the pressure by increasing like light attack howl combos and stuff. Because Vulcan Scoria and all the pressure just basically melts them. It's very, very nice. Anyway, alright, passives. Amplitude. So yeah, this is actually extremely nice in Werewolf form and actually bumps up the damage by quite a significant margin. This does not affect, the expert mage passives is not effective in Werewolf form. So yeah, that's why Stamsorc is damage and sustain wise for definitely the best class for Werewolf. Second best is a Templar, which is a bit more tankier, but has also a bit less sustain and a lot less damage. But Stamplar is not too bad, I wouldn't sniff at it. So yeah, anyway. On the front bar we use our Sworn Board, because Stamsorc with dual wield sucks. Especially if you like in like smaller scale scenarios. That's not spin to win type group play. So yeah, I went Sworn Board because Ransack as a spammer was very, very nice. I do recommend the other morph. I don't know why I have the wrong morph here, to be honest, because the other morph also decreases the spell resistance, which means that our Vulcan Scoria will also hit a lot harder. So anyway, human skills, we use the Ransack, the Pierce Armor skill, so that we can decrease the physical and spell resistance, which means that our overall damage will do a lot more, even our double dot poisons will hit them a lot harder. Then we have Dark Deal slotted, which is good for our sustain, gives us back a ton of health. It's like 5.5k in PvP, and it's like 4k, I think, yeah, 3.6k stamina instantly. Very, very nice for our sustain. With the good magic recovery that Khajiit has, we can keep this up like a lot. Reverberating Bash. We use this to stun our targets on the Stamplar. I'll show you on the Stamplar you can also use the Javelin, but that's really a preferred thing. I personally think that the Major Defile is actually pretty handy for keeping up the pressure, especially against tanky builds. Then the next skill we use is Hurricane. Hurricane is a skill from the Storm Calling, which is classed as a damage over time ability, which means it also procs our Vulcan Scoria, which is very nice. If anyone's even near you, it's like pretty high chance that they're going to get proc by Scoria, which you can't dodge. Then the last skill, Resolving Vigor, which is a healing over time ability, standard for all stand classes. On this setup, with the Hurricane proccing our Crit Surge, Resolving Vigor and Dark Deal, you shouldn't have any problem surviving, especially because we're wearing heavy armor. So anyway, on our back part we use Reverse Slice. I like it because of the cleave damage that it does. It's very nice when you're like trying to hit like 2 or 3 people at the same time. You heavy attack, Dawnbreaker, light attack, reverse slash, and it's like that cleave damage is very nice. And it synergizes very well with Hurricane. Stamsorc is a nice cleave damage type of class, just like Stamplar. So anyway, this is our Execute. You can splash damage other players as well with it. Then we use Carve. We use it at H because it's a dot. It also procs the bleed of the 2H bar because we have a Bone Pirate axe. Even though they nerfed the bleeds a bit, it is still extra damage, free damage. It's a very good backbar weapon if you have dots in the back bar. Then we use Streak. We use it because it does damage. It's nice for pulling out Stam Blades. Also streaking through groups. If you're like a buddy's getting chased by like 5 people, streak through them, piss them off, get them to write you hate mail, and yeah. That's why Streak is awesome. We use Critical Surge for the fat heals. Especially since when Mechanical Acuity procs, it's a guaranteed crit. So we have this coming in every second. Also, when Mechanical procs are Vigor's crit every second, so it means it's like 2.7k Vigor ticks every second is coming in. You're pretty much immortal when Mechanical procs, not gonna lie. You have such a ton of healing, especially with Crit Surge and Vigor at the same time. Then, last but not least, we have the forward momentum skill as a snare removal, which is pretty much mandatory for any build, in my opinion. I tried medium armor shuffle, but snares just kill you. Because shuffle is such a cheaply expensive skill, and it's literally like 1 second of snare immunity. That's why I tried medium armor for like a week, I ditched it. It was not good. Let's put it that way. Shuffle is complete garbage. Anyway, then on the backbar ultimate, you can use the Berserker Rage ultimate, which has like a 19k, 20k tooltip with my armor sets on right now. This character's well, unequipped. Or you can use the Dawnbreaker for the clay damage. I personally found that the Onslaught, the Berserker's Rage, sorry, is better against tankier targets because it ignores the target's resistances. But Dawnbreaker is better against roly-polies and pretty much anything else. And also it's better against vampires. By the way, our Valkon Scoria, since it's also fire damage, is also very good against vampires. I remember this, even in the Stamp class, a vampire, people was probably extremely squishy, but a vampire got hit by, I think, a 5k Scoria proc or something stupid like that. So yeah, the Valkon Scoria coming down, Dawnbreaker, it's very good against like vampire Magplars specifically. Even though it's kind of annoying that they keep cleansing off all the dots. You have to actually work on keeping all those dots up on Magplars. So anyway, that's a skilling for Stamsorc. Yeah, anyway, let's go to our Stamplar and then I'll show you the skillings I use on the Stamplar. Honestly, between Stamsorc and Stamplar, I still think Stamplar is a stronger class in human form, but Werewolf is slightly strong in Werewolf form. So it's really down to personal preference. I like playing both, truth to be told. Stamplar is a bit tankier, while the Stamsorc is a bit more mobile, so it's really on a personal preference. I like doing both, honestly. Can't quite decide myself. Even though the resistances of the Stamplar, it's like the Stamsorc has more like real effective damage, but the Stamplar has more weapon damage and more resistances. And the damage difference is not that high. It's like barely noticeable. Something like 3-4% or so. Not really that much. Only if you're like a real nitpicker. So anyway, Stamplar. The reason why we like Stamplar, because in human form, this passive plus mechanical QT synergizes very well. We also get minor protection, but in human form. And this one procs very nice with the jabs. And I think this can also, I'm pretty sure it can also crit. So when mechanical goes up and you're just jabbing away, it's pretty nasty. And then we get this very nice passive. We get 6% more weapon damage and 2.6k spell resistance, which is very nice. That means the overall resistances are higher in werewolf form than the Stamsorc. We get 4% stamina and ultimate cost reduction, which is like 1% less stamina and magicka cost than Stamsorc and 11% less ultimate reduced cost than Stamsorc. But this is also pretty nice. And the damage difference is, as I said, barely noticeable. The only thing what is noticeable though that you are a bit slower on the Stamplar. You are a bit slower. Definitely, because of the lack of Hurricane and Streak. The Stamsorc is like a higher mobility. That's why I like it so much. Because you can just like confuse people by utilizing your speed against them. Over here, I don't think this... Master Ritualist. This one is handy if you are trying to raise people in werewolf form. Nothing good for anything else, really. But if you want to have to choose between Stamsorc and Stamplar, honestly, it's down to personal preference. Stamsorc is a bit stronger, bit faster. Stamplar has a bit more holy ground. The cleanse is a very, very sexy human form. Higher resistances. Stamplar is a bit tankier. Stamsorc has a bit better damage. So yeah, these are the passes. But what they're good for in werewolf form. The Stamsorc has definitely more passes than the Stamplar. So anyway, skills that we use in human form. We use biting jabs, because yeah, Stamplar, naturally. Even though I've seen a few builds which have, for some weird reason, they do not use biting jabs on the Stamplar. Blew my mind, but hey, that's just me. Power of the Light. We have a decent max stamp pool, so the Power of the Light actually hits pretty hard. Reverberating Bash, as you can see, I only have it on rank 1. since this character is not quite as old as my Stamsorc. The Restoring Focus, which gives a Celestial Rune, Major Protection, Major Resolve and Major Ward, not Major Protection. And we also get Stamina back. If you use that before you go into Well form, it's like a constant stamina that's trickling in. Also, you get 50% more physical resistance and spell resistance when you're standing in it. So, like, when you're standing in the rune, your resistances are off the chart. Then we use Resolving Vigor because it's pretty much our main heal on a Stamplar. Then on the backbar, it's pretty much the same like on my Stamsorc. We use Reverse Slice because of the cleave. Dawnbreaker is an ultimate for the some shoot situations. Carve for the bleed, AoE, and the dodging up. Also, by the way, this skill, and I'm pretty sure this as well, both of them are counted as dots, so they both proc all Vulcan Scoria. So as a Stamplar, the Vulcan Scoria will definitely have a higher uptime than a Stamsorc. Anyway, yeah, then we use Repentance. Instead of this, you can also use the Meditate if you want to, but it's personal preference. I know some people like it, that's why I'm mentioning it. Then we also use Extended Ritual, which cleanses up to 5 harmful effects. It's very nice when fighting dot builds, like DKs mainly. Forward Momentum, Dawnbreaker, Class A, nothing much different there. So, also here you can also use Onslaught, but it is like the cleave damage that Dawnbreaker gives us. So, yeah, that's why Dawnbreaker for the win. Also, there's a ton of vampires in PvP, and it's actually pretty funny when you hit them with it. Or werewolves, for the fact, actually. Anyway, werewolf skills. We use the Berserker Werewolf. The other morph, if you're on console, the other morph is probably better for survival because the pets really completely screw up your targeting. But since in this form I'm actually trying to kill people, and the increased bleeds, because bleeds go through ignore resistances, that means the Berserker is definitely better for actually increasing your pressure on even tanky opponents very fast. Because pets damage can be dodged, pets can be snared. You can't dodge bleeds, you can't snare bleeds. So yeah, Berserker is better for doing damage. If you want to go the tanky route, go for the pack leader. We use the Feral Pounce, because every time we pounce it adds 4 seconds to a werewolf transformation, and it also, Feral Pounce also procs the Blood Rage passive. I mean, so if you like leap on someone, we get 8 seconds back of our werewolf transformation, and since the timer is only like 30 seconds anyway, it's like a third of your werewolf bar goes full. Just make sure to use it every 5 seconds, Feral Pounce someone. If you can sustain it, yeah, very, very nice. I don't like the other morph. The other morph is garbage in my opinion. We use Hesiod's Fortitude, but don't fret because we use weapon damage pots. No, where did I put those pots? There we are. We use these pots in well form. They give us Major Expeditionist, which is like a nice speed buff, which you can make brutality and then stamina back. I took this over the ones with crit because I don't really need crit. And the beauty of this is that if you're, for example, taking a ton of damage and you're just trying to survive essentially, and you can go Lingering Health, which you'll use your Major Brutality, but you'll get like really powerful healing all the time extra, which makes you very hard to kill. With these pots, I'm just going to say never leave PvP without them. They are lifesavers. And this one is, yeah, one word, Night Blades. And these ones are like using in human form when I'm like trying to kite people that don't want to get CC'd. So yeah, these ones are nice when in human form when trying to survive. More detect pots. And these are the poisons that we use on both bars, by the way. It's their double damage pots. I think the effective tooltip is more like 13k or so. So, yeah. Anyway, very, very nice poisons. Very good for blocking Vulcan Scoria. The only irritating thing is that they can be cleansed by Templars. So let's just grab all of this and equip it. Oh yeah, by the way, werewolf skills while we're here. Then because the heal of this is very, very potent in PvP. It's like 11k non-crit, and then when it crits, it's like sometimes it's even 20k plus. It's pretty insane, actually. We use Ferocious Roar because it sets the target off balance for 5 seconds. Off balance means that our heavy attacks do 100% more damage, which means, I literally hit someone yesterday for a 12k heavy attack. So yeah, it can be pretty filthy. And then also off balance, if in the CP tree of the what's it called, of the ritual, it procs the opportunist, no, not opportunist, exploiter passive, which means that the damage done against off balance enemies is like 10% plus. So 10% plus Howl of Agony of the werewolf, which means that we're doing like 40% more damage to them when they're set off balance, because it fears them and sets them off balance. So it's like 40% more damage from Howl of Agony, and that at that point. And 40% damage, just so that you know how much you're actually thinking about here, is about 25k resistances, less effectively at that point. So yeah, hits like a truck in that mode. We use the Claws of Life, because in my opinion, for the longest time I used the Claws of Anguish, but it's like to really keep a good uptime on your major defile, you have to apply it every 4 seconds, and you can see it's not really the cheapest morph of all times, so it'll drain your stamina badly. And that's one thing I noticed ever since I switched. I rely more on my burst combos now to kill them versus just whittling them down. Just dot them right now, just dot them up, wait for the poisons to proc, Scoria comes down, see them, heavy attack, Howl of Agony. With a bit of luck, after like a few combos, even the most tanky opponents will go down. I mean, I legit remember chasing one healer with I think 35k health around a keep for like 10 minutes until I finally got him. So yeah, it's even, you can actually, healers will take a bit longer than my last defile builds, but it's still very easy to kill them, and squishy targets will die a lot faster, especially when mechanical acute procs. To the werewolf passive, this one increases your, this is what you get it standard. It's when you feed, you get the duration of your werewolf timer goes back up, and you get like a 1.5k healing tick for like 4 or 5 seconds. It's actually not too bad. Very nice passive. Pursuit passive, movement speed 30%, which puts us at pretty much almost at speed cap, especially when you use Major Expedition. And we get 50% more stamina from our heavy attacks, which means it's like 11k or so with off balance procs. Because, by the way, off balance also increases the amount of stamina you get back by 100%. The Blood Rage passive keeps us, makes it easy for us to stay in werewolf form. It's actually a very good change. Before that, the main method of countering the werewolf was basically not doing any damage to the werewolf and just waiting for the werewolf to run out. But this one changed at the Wolf Hunter DLC, means that you can't just kite a werewolf around and wait for the werewolf to run out. You can't counter it. You actually have to see him and prevent him from doing damage to you. That's why dodge roll spamming pisses me off as a werewolf. That's why I'm using Vulcan Scoria, because Vulcan Scoria also gives me the proc this passive. Blood Moon, this is when you want to feed infect another player, not really that relevant. Savage Strength, which means we get 18% more weapon damage. Nice, but this is not really a weapon damage build specifically. We rely on crit damage multipliers in the setup. And we also get 10k more spell and physical resistance. This is because, as a werewolf, we don't have Major Ward and Major Resolve unless you're wearing Mighty Tudor, which I wanted to get away from this setup. So anyway, we also get Call of the Pack. The 20% is procced on yourself. That means it's like, if you don't have this passive, your werewolf will run out 20% faster. It goes up to a maximum of 80%, which means that you can stay like almost like 2-3 minutes without even feeding before your werewolf runs out. So yeah, if you have the chance, try to stay in the werewolf pack with 4 people. So let me just grab this gear out of my chest here, and then I can show you what gear I use. Oh, there we go. I have specific chests for this. So anyway, on our front bar we use the Sword and Ward of Bone Pirate. The Skullmaker is a sword. Hang on. There we go. The Skullmaker is a sword you can get. Bone Pirate Tatters is a set you can get from Blackheart Haven. Blackheart Haven is... hang on, what was it? Ah, yeah, here. Blackheart Haven is a group dungeon in Bankerine, which you can get it from. I think the Skullmaker drops in the final boss occasionally, so if you go there with 3 friends, I literally got like 3 swords in one run. I got extremely lucky. The one which is a bit more irritating to farm is the shield. We use it in Infuse to bump up our max stam pool. Then on the back here we proc our poisons. Then on our back we have the Bone Pirate Axe, specifically the Axe. If you can't get the Axe, Sword is also okay, but I really recommend the Axe because you can proc the carve on the back bar. because since it's a class as a weapon damage ability, it procs our, what's it called? It procs the heavy weapons passive. Well, it's pretty much all melee attacks which can proc it, but it works a lot better with carves, in my opinion. Well, by my experience. Also double dot poisons here. If you want, you can put like a weapon damage glyph on, but honestly, it's double dot poisons just to try and keep the uptime good on those. As a set, we use Vulcan Scoria. It's probably better if you can get it the other way around, but I legit couldn't be asked to farm it that much. So yeah, Vulcan Scoria, ideally in heavy, but it's like, get the monster piece, one of those in heavy and one of them in light. Then we use the Mechanical Acuity, which is a craftable from Clockwork City. In Clockwork City, it is, hang on, Clockwork City. I think it's somewhere over here, the crafting shrine. It's somewhere in this region, if I remember correctly. And the reason is basically it gives us swap damage, which is nice. It increases our base damage. Spell damage, useless, to be honest. And then we get fourth pieces, max stamina, max magicka. It is a hybrid set, by the way, so you can theoretically make a Magplar setup with this. And then when we deal direct damage, which is pretty much a lot, pretty much everything we do as a werewolf, to be honest, we have a 15% chance to gain unerring mechanical vision for 5 seconds, which means that's 100% crit ratio. Which basically means that in those 5 seconds, because we are a Khajiit, we get 10% more damage from that, which means our like critical strikes hit extremely hard. Which means if like mechanical goes off and you're jabbing away, your jabs will hit like 3k standard. And it's gonna crit for that 5 seconds. So in those 5 seconds, everything's gonna crit, which includes our poisons, but they're also gonna crit. Light attacks, the bleeds of the wealth can also crit. Claws of Life also are all critting, which means you gain back a ton of healing in those 5 seconds. This is like a mini ultimate. In those 5 seconds, you have to play around it though. You can see that when it's procs, I'll show it to you, the screen will kind of go blue. There we are. When it procs, the screen will kind of go blue. I'm not going to try and proc right now. You can see on the edge, you can see how easy it proc. Light attack, carve, immediately proc. The edges of the screen go blue. And that's when you know that mechanical is procced, and that's when we increase the pressure. And oops, yep, there you can see Scoria also proccing. Yeah. And then here on your jewelry, we use Jewelry of the Bone Pirates Tatters. Again from the Bankerai group dungeon. We use this setup because it gives us a ton of sustain and a ton of max stamina. And since in well form we get 30% max stamina, there really is no replacement where you can get this much recovery and this much max stamina. I tried. There's recovery sets which are better, but there's no set which gives you that much recovery and that much damage, which really is the best thing in PvP right now. So yeah, this is it. When we have this, you can see our, I think, do I have a race+mundus in this character? Nah, wrong thing. I was testing around with the tower. Yeah, okay, you can see our max down is usually around 36.5k on my sword and board bar. It's very nice, we can work with that. Health is around 28k in PvP, and we have like 40k maximum magicka. On the jewelry, we put 2 pieces in protective to get us to, let's say, in well form we should have like 35k resistances, which is like slightly over cap, but I like doing that to counter like piercing and stuff. So yeah, that's why I said Stamplar has a bit higher resistances than Stamsorc has. And then we also use 1 piece robust. You can also go triune here, but yeah, I already have a ton of prismatic enchants, so I don't really feel that I need it. On armor, we use the big pieces in prismatic, the small pieces in stam enchantments, this to make it more cheaper and efficient. Then on the, okay, to the champion points. Let's see, on the warlord, which is under the tower, we put 51 points, which puts it at 19%. This reduces the cost of the break free, which costs a lot, which is like, I think 3k, so that this actually is worth its weight in gold. I always have like at least 50 points in here. We put 29 points on the sprinter to get it up to 17%. We put 1 point on the Siphonor just to piss off Templars, which try cleansing us. With a bit of luck, they'll cleanse this passive and not a double dot poison, so yeah. We put 37 points on the tenacity, which increases the amount of stamina and we get back from melee attacks, which also adds works quite nicely with the werewolf passive and heavy armor passives. The Arcanist, 10% more magical recovery, which also synergizes very well with the Khajiit passive of magical recovery. And then we use Mooncalf for 43%, 43 points to get the 10%, which also synergizes very well with us being a Khajiit. The Shadow Ward passive reduces the cost of block. Since Swordenborn in human form, even as a wolf, I do block a lot, especially when I get focused. So yeah, also put a few points in there to reduce the cost, and then we put 40 on tumbling for the occasional dodge roll that we do. We try not to dodge roll that often though. Anyway, to the apprentice tree. On the blessed, we have 32 points to get the increase our healing done by 8%. This is mainly to get the spell position passive when mechanical is not active, and also the vention passive, which is also very, very handy. Because this means that our heals have a bit higher chance to crit. Also, when mechanical is procced, by the way, in those 5 seconds, every werewolf heal you do will crit. So you're pretty much in those 5 seconds, the healing is literally off the scale. Also, because the Khajiit passive of 10% extra crit healing means that in those 5 seconds, your werewolf heals will be seriously, seriously overpowered. Anyway, since we're using Sword and Board, there's a bug at the moment with the werewolf that if you have Sword and Board, the physical weapon expert doesn't increase the strength of your werewolf light attacks. So I didn't put any points into there. I probably would put points into there if it weren't bugged, but since it's bugged, I'm not going to waste stuff on there. We use 6 points on the Master at Arms to increase the direct damage attacks by 22%. Then to the next tree, we put 56 points on the Precise Strikes. Since this increases the damage we do when our mechanical is procced, we put a lot of points in the piercing, 60 points, since we don't have a fracture as a Stamplar, major fracture as a Stamplar. As on the Stamsorc, we do have it, but 9k pierce penetration. Most people have 25k resistances plus, so it's still very, very effective. Then we put 56 points on the Mighty, just increase our damage on the physical poison and disease damage, which is pretty much all the werewolf abilities. To the red tree. The red tree I changed a bit, especially the allocation of the heavy armor focus skills. I divided it a bit more on my Stamsorc. On the Stamplar I already have spell resistances, so only put them in the heavy armor focus to balance it out. To make them both to equal values. That's a personal preference thing. We put 61 points on the Ironclad to reduce the damage taken against direct damage attacks. We put 40 points on the resistance, which reduces the critical damage we take. This puts our critical resistance up to 2.9k, which is pretty nice. We can work with that. And to the next tree. Here we put 43 points on the Hardy, Elemental Defender, and Thick-Skinned. Thick-Skinned, I put a lot of points in there. As a Stamplar, I know I can cleanse it, but as a wolf, I can't. So I make sure to have at least 50 points into there. There's so many bleeping dot builds in PvP right now that without that, I tried it one day, putting only 10% into it. I was getting smacked harder than you can imagine by dot builds. So I just instantly change it back and oh, no damage anymore. Fantastic. We put 32 points on the heavy armor focus, as I mentioned, to balance out the spell resistance that we get as a Stamplar. If you want to get this in slow, just pause it and copy it down. So anyway, that's CP, werewolf skills. I think that's pretty much, that should be it. The basic, in human form, the basic combo that I like using is essentially buff up. Then you try landing a crit. You see? And you always try keeping the carve going, because that bleed has a high chance of proccing Scoria. Which means that in those 5 seconds, with all the dots going on, it's almost guaranteed to proc your Scoria. Everything goes off. It's really, really fantastic. And then when you're in werewolf form, let me just demonstrate what to do. Usually in human form, my burst combination is lat attack carve, lat, and then Dawnbreaker, then jab, then that, and then usually the bleeds keep ticking, and then you can execute them. But yeah, that's when I am in human form, when I don't, against like Nightblades, it's very, very handy because it's like a ton of dots going on at the same time. If I'm in like in whale form, let me just charge my whale up real quick. Because you know the carve gives us the minor heroism, which gives extra ultimate back. So yeah, very nice for keeping up a werewolf, getting a werewolf filled up quickly. Here you can see how often Scoria is proccing. Scoria is a really nice set. Selene's does more damage, I know, but Scoria is not dodgeable or blockable, and it procs the burning status effect. And the things that bleed, since it bleeds proc the poison status effect, it's really, really nice. You have like a ton of dots going on all at the same time. And the beauty of it is that all of those dots can crit. So in those 5 seconds, I mean, what was it? 26 points DPS. Not too bad for a PvP build. And that's the beauty of it. Vulcan's Scar not being dodgeable. It was so amazing because I was trying to. I told you I was using Zahn, but Zahn has a very long cooldown, and frankly, Scoria pretty much procs non-stop. You can see one jab, boom, Scoria procs. Okay, my Werewolf is almost ready. In Werewolf form, make sure to use the potions, these potions. There's an alchemy calculator that you can use, or just use the normal crit weapon damage pots. These are pretty much my favorite for PvP because this gives you what you need. Major Expedition for those first seconds, it's like a small speed boost, which is also very, very handy. And then we get my Major Brutality and Stand Back. Everything what we need. A Magical Recovery is usually pretty good as well, so yeah. Before going into Werewolf form, I do recommend using your Forward Momentum and putting on the rune first, and then yeah, let it rip. In Werewolf form, I usually try and keep your dots up first. That's the most important thing. So light attack, Claws of Anguish, and then when you see acute, you proc this light attack, howl, light attack, howl, light attack, howl. If the mechanical is on cooldown, try and avoid spamming howl because howl are pretty expensive, and we don't really want to waste our stamina on that. And you can see how the dots and Vulcan's Scar just keep your dots procced, and that's the beauty of it. So it's like light attack, Claws of Anguish, dots procced. And then here, Scoria proc, mechanical procs. This is just a ton of pressure which you can put up very, very suddenly. 36 KD. The damage is literally off the charts because all those dots that we have in this build, all of them can crit. And if you're taking a lot of pressure, I like using the lingering health. Sure, your damage will drop a bit. Your weapon damage will only be like 3k, so instead of like 3.8 or 3.9 in werewolf form. By the way, this is with the tower. We usually have around 45k stamina on this one. But yeah, you'll have like a ton of healing income, which will really make it easier for you to survive. If I'm like 20 ditch out, invisibility potions, immovables are really more for human form. Detection pots, of course, when you're fighting Nightblades. Yeah, this is pretty much it. Those are the combos I like using, the alternatives. I hope you guys liked the video, and yeah, if you like the build, if you like the video of any, just make sure to drop a like. Feel free to subscribe, and yeah, peace out.